Hello and welcome to App Stories. Today's episode is brought to you by Things by Cultured Code and Memberful. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Vitici, who is going to introduce our very special guest today.
Hello, John. I hope you're doing well. It's been a busy week.
I am doing very well.
It's been an eventful week. You survived an explosion. That's what I like to say now.
I did survive, even though Apple made you think that maybe I had perished. So
so there's more details about that on Blue Sky if you're interested. But John is alive and
Yes.
and alive and kicking. You know, that's what you're doing. We're joined today by I described in the pre-show friend of the show, Comfort Zone co-host, web and app developer, and also writer, blogger, Matt Birchler. Welcome to the show, Matt.
And YouTuber.
And YouTuber, yeah.
I forgot something. I knew it. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the extended intro. I appreciate it.
For those who are not aware, you're obviously doing a lot of things. Can you have a more serious introduction of yourself and all the things you do than what I just did?
I've been doing Apple coverage for many years. I've had a blog since 2010. I've been doing that and started YouTube during the pandemic, and more recently started doing app development. I have an app that lets you review things and make posters that you can share on social media, and it's pretty cool. And I should probably name these things. The blog is birchtree.me. The YouTube channel is called A Better Computer, and the app is called Quick Reviews.
And
I did not realize that. I was going to say, I didn't realize that you started your YouTube channel during the pandemic. That time period, I can't remember anything that happened then, whether it happened before, after, or what. I thought it had been around longer than that.
Absolutely not. I'm a huge fan of the YouTube channel. Obviously, like a big fan of your work. The YouTube channel, I think, is the sort of thing that is so hard to find on YouTube. Like just someone who cares about software doing what I like to think. It's almost like the video equivalent of Mac Stories, but on YouTube. And I think it's done so well. Like just long form videos about software, tips and tricks. Like I think it's really well done.
Well, thank you.
I'm a big fan. And I obviously started doing Comfort Zone with Nilean and that other guy, Chris. I love him.
What is his name again?
I
Love you,
forget.
Chris. Shout out to Chris. You guys started doing Comfort Zone, which is also one of my favorite shows. I never skip an episode. And I don't say this because it's on Mac Stories. I actually never skip an episode. Even when you're talking about Star Wars. So that's says a lot.
That's more the two of them. I just try to keep up.
Please don't do them again. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. So we wanted to talk about a couple of topics here today. And I kind of wanted to start by talking about everybody's favorite topic, which is email. And I know that it maybe doesn't sound exciting, but I think it actually is, especially in combination of like when you consider email through the lens of these new tools and these new features that are sort of finding their way into email clients.
Right.
Just a couple of weeks ago on Connected, I talked about my experience with using Superhuman, which is this very Silicon Valley, unfortunately, like tech bro kind of vibe email service. And what's unfortunate about it, I think, is that I think it's a pretty good product if you can set aside the whole vibe thing and the whole sort of like I don't know, not even an aesthetic they're going for, more like a vibe, really. I think it's actually a pretty interesting product, and I decided to take it for a spin because I remembered you putting together on YouTube sort of like a video walkthrough of like what does it feel like to use Superhuman as your email client. And so I kind of wanted to know from you what's your perspective lately on these new email clients that are very different from Apple Mail, for example, even though Apple is trying to modernize the mail experience. What are you playing around with? What's your take on these tools? What's your take on like these AI features in email? That's what I wanted to talk about.
Yeah. First off, I did want to say on the vibe thing with Superhuman, one of the reasons I made a video about it that just showed the app is that I kept watching like these videos of people just like talking about the theory of Superhuman, and I'm like, but what does it do? Like what does the interface look like?
It's a very cult-like vibe.
Yeah.
I think is the problem with a lot of productivity apps.
Yeah.
They get more into the theory than the actual nitty-gritty, which I did appreciate about your video.
Yeah. So yes, I was just like, let's just show the app. And I think I kind of agree with you is that there is this weird vibe around it. There's a cost around it that's relatively insane, but I keep using that app because it is just a good app, which is really, really good. I find it to be very fast, very reliable, really easy to use. But in terms of like this new wave of email apps, I think these like AI tools are really, really well suited for them. I linked to a wallpaper pack that I bought a year or two ago. And I could not remember who made it, what it was called. I had no idea. And I was able to use, I used Shortwave for this, but I was able to search for like, what wallpaper packs did I buy about a year ago? Just show me them. And it was able to find those. And like, I wouldn't know how to do that with a normal search.
Yeah.
And so I really like that kind of like ability to like go through my email and find things in different ways. I feel like there's a lot of these like additional features, like help me write the email, like let me sort your email for you. I find those not to be as useful personally, but like with Shortwave especially, there's like AI everywhere. Like every part of the interface is like, we're going to help you over here, we're going to help you over here, we're going to be a box here. So I think it can be too much at times, but I feel like there's a lot of like spaghetti being thrown at the wall as people try to figure out what clicks.
Right.
But email seems like a space that can be changed quite a bit by these.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. I mean, one of the things, first of all, Matt, you are responsible for two of my big app usages right now, which were Godspeed, which then led me into Superhuman. And I kind of realized using Godspeed after watching your video about that task manager is that it has a very superhuman-like aesthetic to it in the sense that it's very keyboard driven. It doesn't have all the AI stuff layered in, but it kind of operates the same way with a command bar and a lot of keyboard shortcuts, which I find really, really useful to get through tasks and move them around and reschedule them or put them in different lists very quickly. And that's kind of what clicked with me when I tried Superhuman. And I will say, for the record, because Mike Hurley said he thought he felt sorry for me because Federico was going to force me to use
Okay, so
Superhuman.
we're putting Mike on blast here now. Okay.
We're going to put Mike on
right,
blast.
okay.
I tried it of my own volition. Before I tried it, after hearing that Federico was trying it, I watched Matt's video, and it was Matt's video that convinced me to give it a try because it looked like, as I said, very similar to the way Godspeed worked with the keyboard. And I was able, over a weekend of just playing around, just blast through hundreds of emails and get everything kind of organized in a way that I had not done in many, 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 many months. And that alone, even putting the search and the AI to the side, was super valuable to me. But we've actually already since moved on after a week of Superhuman.
What I'm really hearing, John, is that you're saying that I'm a good business partner. I didn't force you to do anything, and you try apps based on your own taste. Okay.
Yes, Mike should not feel bad for me. But the thing too about the vibe, Federico, is that Matt and I were talking a little bit before we got started today. I remember looking at Superhuman like, it was probably at least 3 years ago. Yes. It was back when it was a beta. Yeah. And to get on the beta, as Matt reminded me, you had to go through a one-on-one session with a person.
I did one of those.
I didn't. I refused.
I did one of those. And it was kind of awkward. It was basically like,
yeah, I bet it was.
You're I don't think I'm breaking any embargo here or any NDA. Like, you're jumping on a Zoom call and there's like two people asking, so how do you use email? And I'm like, I don't know.
They did that to anybody, Federico. They let anybody join as long as they let anybody join as long as they did the one-on-one and they had the money and they didn't have any kind of free trial. And I found all of that plus the vibe very off-putting at the time. But things have changed.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore.
They don't do that anymore. The one-on-one thing is optional and you can get a free trial, which is what I did because I wasn't sure whether it would be worth that money because it is expensive. It's very, very expensive. Yeah. But if you get a lot of email, it's maybe worth it to you.
Yeah, I mentioned this on Connected also. After Superhuman, it kind of led me down this path of trying Shortwave, which is this other email service that, as Matt mentioned, like they're doing AI everywhere. Shortwave is a product that's been around for a while. Like many other of these products, it seems like in the past year, they completely pivoted to AI, and they're now saying, well, let's do AI assistants, AI search, AI writing tools, like AI everywhere.
Filtering.
AI filtering, and something actually, like, of all these things, it's like, they're trying everything. Something is actually good, and other features are more like distractions to me. But the AI filters, for example, so the ability to write down a prompt and say, if you see an email that matches such and such conditions, apply this label, for example. And I didn't have to learn a syntax to do it. I could just write down in plain English what I wanted. I think that's an incredible feature. And like it builds on top of the existing foundation of like, yes, you can organize your emails with labels, but now you don't need to learn a syntax anymore. And I think that's very empowering for a lot of people.
It fits in well, I think, with the command bar, because the command bar is designed for you not to have to remember the keyboard shortcuts. If you don't remember the shortcut for something, you can just start typing what you want to do and it'll pop up and you can do it. Where in the natural language of the AI is very similar to that. I'm
curious to know, Matt, what kind of feedback did you get from people about the Superhuman video?
I feel like mostly okay feedback, but there's definitely a notable contingent that was like, I just couldn't do it, because you're not. It's like $30 a month. I think it's up to $40 for like the full subscription now.
40.
Which is more than I pay for cell phone service. Like it is the most expensive thing I pay for. I think it's more expensive than Apple One, which is crazy. But I think that's the thing that's a really, really big sticking point for people is like, and that's not even like for the domain. I'm not getting like an email account with that. I'm also paying for Google for a Gmail account. But I think the feedback was largely okay, but a lot of people not understanding like why the Apple Mail app isn't enough or why other options aren't sufficient.
This week's episode of App Stories is brought to you by the award-winning to-do app Things. As your year gets into full swing, Things can help you prioritize your most impactful work. Just create a project for each of your big goals and then add to-dos to reach those goals. It's really just that simple. Things cuts out the distractions so you can focus on getting things done, and there are powerful features under the hood. Most recently, Things has added a bunch of new features for iOS 18, macOS Sequoia, watchOS 11, and visionOS 2. On iOS, the app provides two controls in Control Center. One of them lets you quickly create a new to-do, and the other lets you quickly jump into one of your lists. To choose a list, you simply flip the control over and pick the list that you want, just like configuring a widget. These controls can also be added directly to the bottom of your lock screen for quick access. Things has also added support for the new home screen appearance modes. A beautiful new dark mode icon appears when you switch to dark mode, and the icon and widgets can adapt to the color of your choice in the new tinted mode. Of course, these features are available on your iPad as well. When it comes to Things, what you'll really love most about the app is its design. It doesn't just look good, it feels good to use. This is a native app made to very high standards of quality, and it's a 2-time winner of the Apple Design Award. So if you haven't tried Things yet, you should check out the latest versions. Head on over to their website, things.app. That's things, things.app, to learn about all the great features. And you can download a free trial for your Mac there too. You can also find it on the App Store by searching for Things. Whatever you want to accomplish this year, Things can help you get there. Try Things today at things.app. You won't regret it. Our thanks to Things for their support of the show.
That I kind of wanted to, because you mentioned like, why not use the Apple Mail app? Obviously, like there's this big topic of AI sort of looming over everything with software these days. And I know that you're the type of person who likes to play around with things, even though you mostly write about Apple. I think you're one of the few who keeps very much an open mind, regarding like alternatives, like web browsers, for example, web apps. Just today or yesterday, you had a post on your blog about like the web is awesome, like web technology is awesome.
Yeah, web apps are great.
Yeah, web apps are great. Me too. Actually, I'm working on a story about like actually using web apps on an iPad is pretty good now. Um, w- we're seeing this progress on a weekly basis now in terms of new AI models, reasoning models, regular models, models for text, for images, for video now. Agents obviously being very much the hot topic at the moment. And all of this, to me, and we've talked about this with John, it seems like it's very much founded on the principle that everything is on the web. These are all web services. Most of these models, they come with web APIs that everybody can use, that you can put on any machine, on any web server, and you can use it. And Apple is taking a very different approach. They're obviously a couple of years behind. They don't have a model, so to speak, that they can offer to not even to developers and let alone people. But like, do you think that the world is going in the technology industry is going in this direction of AI means web-based, means API, and Apple is saying, well, no, for us it means it's local, it's proprietary, it's on device, some of it. Do you think this will turn out to be a problem long term?
That's like the hardest question. And, I do think it's interesting. I would agree that like a lot of the innovation and experimentation is happening on the web and on web apps specifically with these kind of like you said APIs for asking questions and getting answers and doing all the LLM stuff. I don't know, because there is some local stuff going on. Like there is a big community around people using open source models and tweaking those. I forget what it's called. Like there's Llama or something on the Mac that lets you run local LLMs like on your device, and those have a pretty thriving community as well. So I think there's going to be a mix, and like just like personally from concerns around like how much energy these things use and everything, I like the idea of being able to do a lot of this on device if possible. And then like the frontier models, as I think people refer to them, for like ChatGPT 4.01 or 4.03, whatever, all the big ones, those maybe you still need to reach out. But like I do like the idea that for simple stuff, and maybe less simple stuff in the future, you'll be able to do it on device. But yeah, it seems like a lot of this is happening on the web and not necessarily in app stores and stuff. And I would posit potentially reason for that is that there aren't rules around what you can publish on the web. There aren't app store regulations, and you can, not that this stuff would necessarily be blocked, but like they don't have to worry about that. They can iterate quickly. They don't have to worry about app review or anything. And yeah, there's just less friction there to experiment.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I mean, one of the things about local LLMs is I just saw that there is a Chinese company that just
that's funny.
right?
That's funny you mentioned that, because I was gonna mention the same thing. So I think you're referring to DeepSeek. DeepSeek R1.
DeepSeek, yes.
What's funny about
ahead.
What's funny about DeepSeek is that it's this new open source model. It's being trained. It's like a 1.5 billion parameter model that's totally free and open source. But what's funny about it is that I saw some posts that if you're chatting with the model and you try to criticize the Chinese government, the model is gonna go insane, and the model is gonna the model
it has certain parts of Chinese history that have been not included in the model apparently. But the thing that's I think interesting about it, that stuff aside, is that it was developed at a very small fraction of the cost of the big LLMs from companies like OpenAI, and it can run locally, just like some of the Llama models can too. And I do think that we are going to see a mix at some point. We're probably, I feel like the things that people are running locally are not quite, they're just not as capable. So we're probably a little ways off from people doing that in a widespread way, but it is doable. I mean, if you use, for instance, like Mac Whisper or an app like that to do audio to text, you can download those models, which are open source, directly into the app, and they can be pretty big. But that stuff is all happening locally. It doesn't have to go to the cloud.
Yeah, but there's something to be said about like what Matt said. Like, it's funny to imagine like an alternate timeline where 10 years ago, instead of doubling down on App Store regulation, maybe Apple went the opposite direction and we're like, all right, fine. You can do side loading, you can do JIT, you can do all the things you can do with web apps. We just want to give you the freedom to build on our platforms with native apps. And they didn't do that, but there's a maybe an alternative history here where all of this innovation, maybe instead of starting on the web, could have started on the App Store. And I
Maybe,
think,
maybe. Although with the Mac, Federico, I mean, that's pretty open, and the Mac's seen an awful lot of shift to web apps too, despite the fact that you don't have to be on
so
an
maybe
App Store there. So
maybe it was inevitable. Maybe.
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 This episode of App Stories is brought to you by Memberful. Memberful is the best-in-class membership software that's used by the web's biggest creators, publishers, and media companies. We've been using Memberful at Mac Stories for years. It runs the entire Club Mac Stories, and it has since 2015. It's a fantastic tool that adapts to your needs. It's got powerful capabilities like plugins that integrate effortlessly with WordPress, allowing you to create a fully functional membership website for your client's business. Plus, Memberful's robust API and webhooks make extending its functionality a breeze without needing complex custom code. Content protection is available too. You can put content behind a paywall, enabling your clients to monetize exclusive blog posts, videos, and downloadable resources. Plus, Memberful allows your client to keep full control over their brand, audience, and business, allowing them to offer flexible membership levels, including recurring subscriptions, one-time payments, and a whole lot more. That's the kind of flexibility that we use at Mac Stories for our different tiers of the club. Plus, it has built-in payment processing. They're handled by Stripe, and it makes checking out a breeze for customers and ensures your clients get paid on time every time. But one of the things that really makes Memberful special and sets it apart is the fact that it integrates so tightly with so many different services. There are those WordPress plugins that I mentioned. Plus, it integrates with other popular platforms like MailChimp for email newsletters or Discord for community building, giving your clients more ways to engage with their audience. Memberful is humans first, not software first. That means it allows creators to monetize with a partner, not a platform. Whether your clients are launching, growing, or switching platforms, Memberful is committed to providing exceptional support at every stage of the journey, from advice on growth strategies to troubleshooting setups. With Memberful, you're not just getting a tech solution, you're gaining a trusted partner that's ready to offer personalized guidance from setup to strategy. Visit memberful.com/appstories today to learn more and sign up. That's memberful.com/appstories. Our thanks to Memberful for their support of the show.
Matt, we have some questions for you. You know, we've been asking these questions to all the guests that we've been having on App Stories over the past few months, and I have one specifically. I was catching up on Comfort Zone a few days ago. I was listening to one of the episode before the holidays, and you mentioned, I believe, that you were using something like 3 different browsers on separate devices. And I wanted to ask if that's still the case. And I'm not judging here because I'm fascinated by it, but I want to understand why.
That's fair. I am using 3 different browsers on 3 different devices.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I use Safari on my iPhone and iPad. I use Zen browser on my personal Mac, and I use Arc on my work Mac. So
Interesting.
yes.
So let's talk about the Mac. Why the difference between the work Mac and the personal Mac, and what is it? Do you just like a clean separation between the two?
So I started using Arc on the work Mac like a year or 2 ago, and so it's just momentum. I'm still using it there. But what I really like about Arc is the whole idea of Arc. Like before they went on the AI pivot or whatever, the whole point of that browser was that you're working all day in these web apps. Ironically, we're back on web apps, and your browser should treat them more like apps rather than just like websites and tabs and stuff that you have open. And so I have a really nice setup where we're deeply in the Google suite and the Atlassian, Jira, and Confluence and all that stuff. And so I just have like all of the things that I use constantly just saved as little like app icons basically in my sidebar. They stay open. They're easily accessible with keyboard shortcuts. And yeah, I just kind of have muscle memory to work really, really fast in there. And it works very, very nicely with all the stuff I do day to day. So I'm going to keep using that until Arc inevitably stops working great.
And what is it instead about Zen that you like in your personal Mac?
Yeah, so I'm really falling for Zen recently. Zen is basically at a very like surface level. It's Arc, but built on Firefox instead of on Chromium.
Okay. Oh,
so
I
it is.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a fork of the Firefox rendering engine, Gecko or whatever. They have, and I just really, really like it. Like I can't put my finger on exactly what it is, but it feels really good to use. And I feel like for a web browser, I don't need super advanced features. I just need something that like feels very good. So when I'm doing things, because I'm on the browser basically 90% of my time when I'm working on the Mac, and it just needs to feel good and feel just nice and easy to use. So Zen's really clicked with me. It's still like in pretty early beta, so there's some rough edges. There's no DRM media support, so like Netflix won't play if that's an issue for people. But I don't do that, so it's fine. But yeah, I'm definitely falling in love with this browser, and it's actively developed. So it's got like a thriving community of people who are building extensions and themes and stuff. And if you use Firefox like on your phone, it will actually sync using Firefox Sync, so you can sync if you want.
Huh.
Yeah, does it work with regular Firefox extensions too, or do they have to be specifically built? Okay, no, that's good.
Yep.
Nice.
It has a very Arc look to it in terms of its design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Are there any other recent favorites in terms of apps that you want to mention?
Yes, there's a couple.
Okay.
Two of them are web apps. Big episode for web apps. I've been using a new code IDE recently called Cursor.
Oh yeah. Okay.
This is an AI powered text editor. Basically, it's a fork of Visual Studio Code, and it just has basically an AI assistant built in that is front and center, and really has helped me learn how to do iOS development very quickly. And it's helped me with some of the things I struggled with on the web. But yeah, it's really fantastic. I could go on for like an hour about it, but basically at a very core level, like I have like a button on the screen, and I want it to do something. I can just select the button like code, hit Command K, and say I need this to create an image and save it to the file system, and it will show me how to do that. And it just works 90% of the time, 95% of the time.
And
it's really, really good.
How much pre-existing knowledge? So you're building an iOS version of Quick Reviews, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But how much pre-existing knowledge in terms of iOS development was required for you to get going with Cursor?
A little bit, I would say.
Okay.
So I have done iOS development many years ago, but long enough ago it wasn't really relevant anymore. But I'd say having knowledge of what's possible and how code in general works is very helpful to it. If you just like type in, I want to make an app that does this, you're not going to get a good result. You kind of have to understand how to build software and how functions work and how your logic works. And like, there's quite a bit still there to do, and you have to kind of understand and figure out. But it's allowed me to build an app that I literally would not have been able to do in remotely the amount of time that I've done it. So it's been really impactful for me.
Yeah, maybe John, maybe this is a way for you to bring back Blink.
Yes, it could be. Could be. I can get back into iOS development. I don't know, Federico. I think I've got my plate full for now.
I think so. Is there anything else you want to mention before we talk about Quick Reviews, Matt?
Then another two just quick little ones. There's an app called Lottie Lab, which is an animation app. So if you want to like animate an icon or animate a little stick figure guy or even more like elaborate stuff, I've been using that for a couple like slideshow presentations that I've been making at work, where I've made like just animated little icons that dance while a slide is on screen. So that's really, really cool. And then there's Spline, which is a 3D modeling app that is totally online and really intuitive. I've tried to learn Blender, and Blender just breaks my brain. I got to the donut portion, which everybody seems to do with these 3D apps, and then after that, I'm like, I don't understand anything else. But Spline has been pretty cool, and again, just runs in the browser and runs incredibly well. Like, it's amazing what you can do in a browser these days. Like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, we would have said, well, sure, you can do some things in a web app. You can do email in a web app, but a 3D modeling app, there's no way you'd be able to do that, but you can today. So it's pretty cool.
That's wild. So you're building an iOS version of Quick Reviews. I believe there's a test flight beta right now.
There is, yes.
And I wanted to know from you, what was the approach? Quick Reviews has been available as a web app for a few years now. So what were some of the considerations in terms of building a native iOS version? Also, why build a native iOS version?
Yeah, the why, I put it off as long as I could. Like, I really was like, a website's fine. I think on like a Mac or an iPad, it still is. But I got a lot of people who were like, oh, this is cool. I would like to do this, but I want to do it from my phone. And it was just a lot of UI to fit on like a website in the web interface. And iOS is custom tailored to this and has a lot of tools to make a lot of that easy. And so I just decided, hey, I should do this. I felt the pain as well. Like, I would walk out of a movie theater and be like, oh, I want to leave my review on social media. And I would just suffer through the website, and I didn't like that. So it's also just made for me. But yeah, I wanted to just give people a good experience on iOS. And then also I'm curious, as we talked about at the start, I have lots of little side projects. So what's one more skill that I can pick up? So wanted to do iOS development. And yeah, but I think in terms of like what I wanted to do with it, I wanted to do all the things the web app did, and then all the things I couldn't figure out how to do on the web. So it, I think, will eventually turn into kind of like a mini Letterboxd or Sofa, I think is the app. Yeah. Let you kind of track all the things you're watching and reading and all that stuff. And much to do there, but just right now focused on getting it out the door and making sure it doesn't have crazy bugs or anything like that. But It's been really exciting to make, and it's really fun to do something for the first time. I see a lot of developers who are like, oh, Swift UI is really annoying. I have all these like things I run into, but as someone new, oh, it's been liberating to just like write like 3 lines of code and have like an interface display. It's great. So
yeah. What's the hardest thing been, like, kind of transitioning from, doing this as a web app to doing it as something native?
The hardest thing is understanding how literally everything's different. I'm very comfortable with like HTML and styling it with CSS, and like almost none of that knowledge is useful in a Swift UI. Like, it's totally different syntax. It's not even like the structure is different. There's a very weird thing where, like, this is just a very minor thing, but like when I create a little section in like the settings screen, I want to put a label for the top of that section for like, these are your appearance settings or whatever. I write all the code for the section, and at the bottom you put header. I don't know why the header lives at the bottom of the like little code block for that, not the top, but like there's just a bunch of little things that I've had to like retrain myself. So yeah, there's quite a bit of difference there.
Back when I was doing iOS development, it was Objective-C. So I am very curious about like Swift UI and the kinds of things that does for simplifying a lot of what was done more manually in those days.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm a very amateur developer, so I'm not the best to speak super intelligently on this, but the impression I get is that the Swift UI elements of the code are just like the layout and the UI, and then all the logic is written in Swift. So you are still using like normal Swift in that way.
Right.
That's great. Well, I'm looking forward to trying Quick Reviews on iOS, and I think it's been fascinating to see the web app, which is a quickreviews.app, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Yeah.
Evolve over time. I didn't notice that there's now a command bar.
It's a real pro app. You got to have a command bar.
There's Command K and gives you a bunch of commands. Really well done. So yeah, we're looking forward to the iOS version. And I believe that's about it for this episode. I think we did it.
I think it is. I
Yeah.
think we did it again. Boy, we've done like 420 of these now, Federico. I think we've got the hang of it finally.
Pretty much.
It's taken a little while, but
It's
here
taken
we
a
are.
while,
Here
yeah.
we are. All right. I want to thank our sponsors, both Things by Cultured Code and Memberful. Matt, where can people find you online?
The best place to find me is on my website, birchtree.me.
All right. You'll find all the links to finding Matt and other places right there. And of course, you can find me and Federico over at macstories.net and Club Mac Stories. And if you want to find us on social media, just search for our names. Federico is Vitici pretty much everywhere, and I'm John Voorhees everywhere. Talk to you later, guys.
Ciao, John. Thank you, Matt.
Bye, guys.